Good afternoon and good morning. Good afternoon in Botswana and good morning in Trinidad and Tobago. So my name is Aurélien Orange, and together with my colleague Anna-Maria Urbanova from the Corax Foundation, we'll have a match, the first match for two teams in day one of the group phase of the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament 2026. So I give the floor to my colleague who will be the host for this match.
Thank you very much, Professor Lagrange, and good day to our two teams today, of course, and also welcome and thank you to the three judges that will be observing this debate, and of course to all the supporters for the two teams. Today we'll be hearing the debate on topic whether or not taxation regimes must be designed in light of globally integrated economic systems. The two teams have received this topic 7 days in advance. They have prepared for both sides of the argument, and we'll shortly also discover which side will be represented by which team. But before we get to that part, it's time to welcome our participants, starting with the University of Botswana's debate team, Ms. Mogorosi.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you and welcome. From University of the West Indies, Ms. Cabrales.
Good day, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Welcome from University of Botswana, Ms. Nkube.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me.
Welcome from Universities of West Indies, Mr. Fernandez.
Good morning. Thank you all for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Welcome from University of Botswana, Ms. Marveng.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Welcome from University of West Indies, Ms. Mahraj Sukrej.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you very much and welcome. In a short while, you should be able to see the screen with the wheel for the allocation of position. If I can just get a confirmation that you can see it.
Yep.
All right. So as always, there are two positions for each team, in, against, and in favor. So it will be, for today's match, the University of Botswana's debate team that will argue in favor, therefore representing the argument in favor that taxation regimes must be designed in light of globally integrated economic systems. You will now have 5 minutes to finalize your preparations. Feel free to close your cameras and microphones, and then the team in favor will proceed to start. Good luck. Thank you, everyone. Your time for final preparation is now over. We'll be proceeding by hearing the opening statements. Starting with the team in favor, University of Botswana, you now have 4 minutes.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Panel of adjudicators, protocol is highly observed. From the proposition bench, we believe that we must be cognizant that the modern economy is structured around institutions such as the World Trade Organization, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and frameworks such as the EU single market. We believe that with how cross-border capital flows are existent now, and the status quo where we have bitcoins, cryptocurrency, and global supply chains, ignoring global integration when designing tax systems is economically negligent and legally outdated. From the government, we tell you that tax policy that ignores this reality becomes ineffective. Proposition's best argument is that there are international legal obligations that states sign into, and therefore states must abide by them. States are bound by double taxation treaties, trade agreements, and investment treaties, depending on how they adopt these treaties, whether a state is a single or a dual legal system. We think that tax regimes that ignore global integration violate treaty obligations, and legal coherence demands global awareness. Panel of adjudicators, a taxation regime that is blind to global integration is not sovereign, it is strategically obsolete. From proposition, we tell you that economic reality is globally integrated, therefore ignoring it causes immeasurable harm, and sovereignty without coordination is self-defeating. This is backed up by principles such as the legal principles that agreements must be kept, and there must be treaty compliance. We tell you from our side of the house that the binding nature of ratification is codified in Article 26 of the Vienna Convention, and we think because states signed into these treaties, they are bound by them. The impact of this argument is that legal instability deters investment and increases sovereign risk premiums. We don't think that this is safe. We don't think that this is economically wise for developing states and for any other economy. For example, when Argentina had emergency taxes and financial measures during its economic crisis in 2001 to 2002, it faced numerous CID claims because it was conflicting with bilateral investment initiatives and agreements. We think that this is something that is probably going to happen at a point where we follow the opposition and not the government side. We think that being cognizant or designing tax regimes in light of globally integrated systems is the right way to go because it is cognizant of the reality and the status quo. Second argument tells you that we are going to prevent base erosion and profit shifting. Panel, without globally aware tax design, states lose revenue. This is true because multinational corporations exploit tax havens, regulatory gaps, and transfer pricing manipulation. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development's base erosion and profit shifting framework exists precisely and primarily because purely domestic tax regimes fail to keep up with global integration. That means that tax law in isolation leads to corporations shifting profits, which leads to states losing tax base, and which leads to public goods collapsing. We think at this point, the state fails its duty to be the custodian of the people, and we don't think that is something that we must vouch for. We also think that because the impact of this argument is that when there is a revenue loss from the base erosion, that we have weakened institutions and structural inequalities, we don't think that is something that we must vouch for. Therefore, it makes sense for tax regimes to be designed in light of globally integrated systems because then they feed into each other and we don't allow multinational corporations to succeed or to exploit small economies. We think that this is important and this is true because when we look at principles that back this up, substance over form in tax law, courts increasingly examine the economic reality than formal structure. Therefore, we will not buy into arguments that say that, well, formally wise because taxation is a proof of sovereignty, then states must vouch into domestically aligned taxation policies. No, we think because the base erosion and profit shifting framework exists and was developed because MNCs exploited gaps between tax systems, then we must follow through. Because if we remember well, ABO's tax arrangements in Ireland led to a 13 billion euros recovery order by the European Commission because it was exploiting the tax realities that was there. Thank you. Proud to propose.
Thank you. Your speaking time is now over. We'll be hearing the opening statements by the University of the West Indies for the against position. You also have 4 minutes.
Am I audible and visible?
You are.
When we speak about a globally integrated taxation system, we refer to a framework on tax policy that is constrained by cross-border coordination, international standards, and institutional mechanisms which limit unilateral domestic discretion. We assert that a global taxation regime is going to erode state sovereignty, negatively impact data security, and further exacerbate the socio-economic disparities between developing and developed nations. Firstly, taxation is a primary avenue for a state to earn revenue. Therefore, it is deeply connected to sovereignty. Article 2 of the United Nations Charter of Economic Rights and Duties purports that a sovereign nation is in full control of its economic activities free from external influences. Moreover, the case of East Timor, Portugal, and Australia re-emphasizes the importance of self-determination and a sovereign nation's ability to enact and carry out its laws, also free from external influences. Therefore, designing a global taxation system is going to dilute state sovereignty, as sovereign nations will no longer be the sole architects of their economic destiny. Secondly, by having a global taxation regime, it is going to dramatically magnify data security risk. There needs to be cross-border data sharing to enforce a global taxation system. The Swiss taxation system, which is characterized as absolutely safe, has been hacked numerous times per the Conservace hack and the explained ransomware attack. The data that was extracted was being sold and exploited on the dark net. Therefore, centralizing financial data in a single unit is going to exponentially increase the risk of data security breaches for all nations, and it is going to have a rippling effect globally. Therefore, a global tax regime is going to make nations vulnerable for these real and possibly devastating consequences. Lastly, a global tax regime is going to further exacerbate the economic and structural disparities between developing and developed nations. The Investor-State Dispute Settlement, the ISDS, has mechanisms that allow foreign investors to challenge the policies made by sovereign nations, the governments of sovereign nations. 65% of ISDS cases per the Conference of Trade determines that 65% of these cases are targeted towards developing nations. The case of Occidental Petroleum and Ecuador further re-emphasizes this, as Ecuador tried to reform their taxation system and was unable to do so because of an international policy between Ecuador and Occidental Petroleum, a US-based company. Therefore, it is for these reasons that we assert that a taxation system must remain within the control of a sovereign nation to protect state autonomy, protect data security, and to not further exacerbate the disparities between developing and developed nations. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now proceed to hear the rebuttals, starting with the University of Botswana. You have 2 minutes. Whenever you're ready, University of Botswana.
Am I audible?
You are.
All right. Just to set up my things, and then I will start my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Right. Panel, we've already told you that the status quo exists in cross-border capital flows in multinational corporations and in digital economies and the global supply chain. Hence, it is very problematic for a side to come and tell us that states need to be sovereign. Also, not that sovereignty is not isolation, but it is responsible participation in anything that the international law guides or in actually doing the international obligations. And we believe that modern sovereignty includes international obligations. What this means is states cannot electively invoke sovereignty to escape these form of integrations, especially if they're going to safeguard them. We think a particular case study is the United States for Foreign Sales Corporation. The tax scheme was ruled out because it violated the agreement on subsidies and countervailing measures that were set by the World Trade Organization. This case study is particularly important because it shows how a domestic tax regime that is inconsistent with international trade law may impede with the people who are the ones who pay tax, and it may also impede with the businesses and the state, which is the one who gets the tax so that they can have a better output for their citizens. So it's important to actually be in line with the international trade so that they do not follow suit with what happened in the United States tax treatment for foreign sales corporation. Our learned friends talk about competition. Panel, it's important to understand that competition in their side of the world is short-term incentives that may probably attract capital, but in the long term, they lose because long-term erosion reduces domestic revenue, and we do not value for such a world. It's important to understand that states exist internationally and without borders. And because there is already this idea of trading internationally, there ought to be laws that govern them. And we think that sovereignty is a very big problem, especially if we're going to have states like the United States of America that wake up and decide to do whatever it is that they want to do without necessarily being guided. We shun such a behavior, especially if it has got to include the citizens of the United States of America or the citizens of any country that is involved in that particular level. And we think that when we get these international trade obligations and when a country follows them,
In that note, we'll proceed to hear the first rebuttal in the against position by University of West Indies. You also have 2 minutes.
That's good. Am I audible and visible?
You are.
Okay, thank you very much. While I appreciate my opponents' effort and concerns, their arguments, however, are unfounded and lack legal merit. Basically, the opposing side, the argument boils down to is that unilateral tax systems are obsolete. However, there's already a proven framework to address these issues. For instance, in 2019, France enacted a 3% digital services tax on all technology companies, raising nearly $1 billion in 2024. To add to that, the Congressional Research Service reported that 19 states have also followed suit enacting similar digital services tax. In light of this success and in light of this progressive development, developing countries will also model their reforms accordingly, as they did with the anti-tax and anti-money laundering and anti-terrorism statutes. This therefore illustrates that national tax systems are more than capable of addressing this issue, thereby dispelling the need for a global tax system. Secondly, the United States, in the case of Moore v. United States, the U.S. Supreme Court held that a mandatory repatriation tax on cash and non-cash reserves held overseas by U.S. investors was taxable, slapping Apple with a $38 billion tax liability and Microsoft with $13.7 billion in tax liability. This clearly illustrates that local tax regimes are more than capable of addressing this issue, thereby dispelling the need of a global tax system.
All right, thank you. We'll now proceed to hear the second rebuttal, starting with the position in favor, University of Botswana. You have 2 minutes. You are muted.
Okay, am I audible now?
You are.
Okay, I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, we live in an era where no economy operates in isolation. Capital moves across borders in seconds. Multinational corporations operate in dozens of jurisdictions simultaneously. Trade binds nations together through legal frameworks such as the World Trade Organization, and in such a world, taxation regimes cannot be designed as though borders are walls, they are bridges. My learned counsel just tells us that taxation is about sovereignty. We agree, but sovereignty today does not mean isolation. Sovereignty in a global integrated system means the ability to operate effectively within global realities. My learned counsel just told that when taxation regimes were global integration, consequences that follow are revenue loss because multinational corporations exploit gaps between national systems. Profits are shifted to low tax jurisdictions. Governments lose billions in revenue needed for healthcare, education, and infrastructure. The second one will be that designing tax systems without global awareness is not sovereignty, it is vulnerability. Loss of competitiveness. While our learned councils argue about competitiveness, we tell you that foreign investors compare tax systems. If a country designs its taxation regime without considering international standards, it risks driving away investment. In a global integrated economy, design influences capital flows, employment, and growth. The third one will be legal exposure, because tax measures that discriminate or contradict obligations can trigger disputes under international frameworks or arbitration mechanisms such as the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes. Ignoring global integration does not preserve independence, it invites conflict. Our learned councils also tell you that global standards reflect powerful states, but we submit that cooperation that doesn't eliminate sovereignty, it modernizes it. Participation in global systems is an exercise for sovereignty, not its surrender. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear the second rebuttal for the position against by University of West Indies. You have 2 minutes.
Am I audible and visible?
You are.
While I appreciate the opposing team's concern and effort once again, the arguments, however, are unfounded. Firstly, they assert that in order for there to be coordination among nations, there must be a global tax regime. However, nations are already coordinating without a global tax system. For example, Caribbean countries have come together and they've created the Caribbean Double Taxation Agreement, designed to curb double taxation and tax evasion by multinational corporations. To add to that, the European Union enacted the Anti-Tax Avoidance Directive. And since its enactment, the European Commission reported a 30 to 50% drop in tax loopholes. First, and something must be clearly established. The opposition team made mere assertions and they provided no statistics to justify their position, clearly showing that a global tax regime is not needed and that unilateral tax systems are more than capable of addressing this issue in light of the recent cases I've cited and in light of the treaties that I've also cited. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission. We'll now proceed to hear the concluding statements, starting by the University of Botswana debate team. You have 2 minutes to conclude your in favor position. Right. A bit of technical issue. We'll give the team the chance to reconnect. Right. Just a short note for the observers and the judges. The technical difficulties, please don't take them into account. The grading also, the BOS will be cut out.
Excuse me, may you repeat that? We didn't hear you.
Right. You just have a small echo within your room. Whenever you're ready, you have 2 minutes for your conclusion.
Are you saying that you are now awaiting the conclusion from the University of Botswana?
Yes, that is correct.
Oh, thank you.
Ke sentse o boela gape.
Miss Ncube, can you open the mic for your conclusion?
Mr. Mbila, right? Ish, video. Okay, I will start. Okay, okay. I will start my speech. That's my speech in three.
Please, just
Okay, sorry about that. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. In conclusion, as the opposition, we tell you that designing taxation regimes in the light of globally integrated economy.
unfortunately, your audio disconnected, so we'll ask you to restart your conclusion from the beginning. If that is
Okay.
easier for your devices, let's just proceed with the audio.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? My other device switched off.
Yes, we can hear you.
No, the volume.
You can
Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. You are audible. Please proceed.
Okay, sorry about that. Let me start my speech in 3, 2, 1. In conclusion, designing taxation regimes in the light of globally integrated economic systems is not optional. It is necessary. It is not weakness, but it is modern statecraft. Our learned councils tell you that global standards reflect powerful states, but we submit that cooperation does not eliminate sovereignty, it modernizes it. Participating in global systems is an exercise for sovereignty, not its surrender. We tell you that 1. Taxation regimes ignore global integration. The consequences that follow are, number 1, legal exposure, because tax measures that discriminate or contradict state obligations can trigger disputes under international frameworks or arbitration mechanisms such as the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes. Ignoring global integration does not preserve independence, it invites conflict. Number 2, we tell you about the loss of competitiveness. Foreign investors compare tax systems. If a country designs its taxation regime without considering international standards, it risks driving away investors. In a globally integrated economy, tax designs influence capital flows, employment, and growth. The third one will be revenue loss because multinational corporations exploit gaps between national systems. Profits are shifted to low tax jurisdictions. Governments lose billions in revenue needed for healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Therefore, designing tax systems without global awareness is not sovereignty, it's vulnerability. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your concluding statements. We'll now hear the concluding statements by the University of West Indies for the against position. You have 2 minutes.
Am I audible and visible?
You are.
Stop now. We started this debate with a blunt claim. Taxation must not be redesigned for a globally integrated economy. First, we made it undeniable that fiscal sovereignty is the essence of statehood. Without it, governments focus on the question, who can we attract rather than who do we actually serve? Second, we dismantle the myth that global integration can actually protect data, protect our privacy, and ensure accountability. Global integration, it leads us to an erosion of trust because it opens our borders to exploitation. Third, we show that global integration is not a neutral system. We show that it is an extraction regime that takes weaker nations' resources to enrich the strongest. Therefore, the argument is simple. Are we going to choose local justice or global domination? The opposition argues for integration, but we show that integration means surrender. Surrender for our privacy, surrender for our rights, and surrender for our sovereignty. Thus, one truth remains today. Justice remains at home. Therefore, taxation should be in the hands of sovereign nations, because only sovereign nations can protect the people, while globalization exploits them. Thank you.
Thank you for your concluding statements. Well, at this point, all of you can relax. You're no longer graded after this part. Well done on concluding and preparing and then debating during your first match of the Hague University Law Debate Tournament of 2026. As always, we'll give you now the opportunity to reflect on the match, on whether or not you had familiar arguments from the opposing team that you also prepared during your research for the positions. Perhaps starting with the University of West Indies. Mr. Fernandez, how was the debate, the topic?
Yes, can you repeat your question?
How did you find the debate, the match, or the topic itself?
Well, we collaborated amongst ourselves to plan the debate. We each worked on every part in preparing for the debates. Sorry about my trip ups, but yeah, and we collaborated. We stress test each other debates. We directed each other. Where to find certain sources, how to construct our arguments accordingly, how to make it more punchy, as some people let's say. And yeah, it was a really nice experience. Stressful here and there, but we really enjoyed prepping ourselves. I really enjoyed enhancing our skills and making ourselves better which will be very, very helpful in our legal career.
Right. Thank you for sharing. From University of Botswana, perhaps Ms. Mogorosi, how did you find the debate, the topic?
Thank you very much. The debate was very interesting and the topic was nice. We learned a lot during our research and the frameworks around taxations. We learned a lot as a team. But in terms of as the government and opposition, we actually almost had similar points. So the arguments they brought up as opposition, we also had them as opposition. If we were to be opposition, those would have been our arguments. So it was interesting and also very lively to realize that, to a certain extent, like minds we thought alike, so we need to present.
For University of West Indies, perhaps Ms. Cabralis, how did you find the topic? Perhaps did you already have the topic in your studies before?
No, this would have been a new topic for us. I would have never encountered this topic in any of my studies. So researching for this was insightful because I learned a lot while I was also preparing my arguments for the debate as well.
Thank you for sharing. University of Botswana's Ms. Nkube, how was it for you? Did you already perhaps encounter this theme in your studies? How did you find the debate?
Well, I have never really encountered it in any of my studies, but it was nice to actually research on it and add it onto some of the things that I know. Now I can properly engage in such conversations without any fear of being left out or making bigger mistakes because I now know what the topic is about. So it was very good.
For sharing. And from University of West Indies, Ms. Mahadir Suklesh, how did you find the topic and the debate today?
I find it was very insightful. I learned a lot, and the debate was a bit nerve-wracking for me, but I think as my first learning experience today, I should be better going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And University of Botswana's Ms. Mavink, how did you find the topic and the debate today?
Well, I learned a lot about international law policies as I was researching with my fellow learners. Well, it was an interesting topic, to be honest, and it is broad when it comes to policies and tax laws and, everything. So it was good.
Right. Well, thank you for hearing again. I will now be passing the floor to Professor Larange to conclude today's session with a bit of networking, but really well done on your first debate match and all the best going forward.
Yes, congratulations. That was a great first match, and now you are fully in the competition. So you are in the group D. So it means as well there are two other universities who will have their own first match in your group, and they will be your next opponents in 2 weeks. That's the University of Melbourne and the Latin American University of Science and Technology in Costa Rica. So these are the two next opponents in the group phase in your group, the group D. So now I have two questions for you, so to know you a bit better and as well to know, where you are studying, the city and the country. So the first question, this is for you in Trinidad and Tobago. So why did you decide to represent your university, and how is it for you to have been selected for representing the University of the West Indies in this competition this year? So this is a question for the whole team. So who wants to start answering this question?
I decided to participate, to go up for the competition and hopefully got selected to hone my public speaking skills. Naturally, as an individual, I feel like that's an area I needed to work on, and I saw this as an opportunity to develop my skills, and not only develop my skills, but also to hopefully successfully represent the University of the West Indies and the Faculty of Law at the St. Augustine campus, and to put on the global stage what we can do.
And your colleagues, maybe?
My colleagues.
Yeah, you all have to.
Well, I chose to do the debate for similar reasons as well. In the future, I intend to, if I continue along that route, I intend to go into advocacy and advocate for change in Trinidad and Tobago, my country, as well as in the wider Caribbean and hopefully on a global stage. But the debate process, in terms of the debate selection process, it was a good process. I learned a lot there as well, and also preparing for this debate as well, I learned a lot, and hopefully all those things will help me to hold my skills, as Naomi said, for future success.
I chose to do this debate because usually I'm an anxious person in a formal setting. So I was like, this is a stepping stone to help me, help myself actually learn how to articulate my points better. So I think this was really helpful for me to move up a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, same question in Botswana. So, how is it for you to have been selected to represent your university this year? And how was the process?
Hi again. For me, it was very lovely. It's a very beautiful opportunity, something that I never thought would actually happen. So I am very, very excited to be here. But also to improve my skills as an upcoming lawyer because I'm just in my first year. So it would be nice to actually connect with lawyers internationally, but also to improve my debating skills since I'm also doing debate and part of the debating team here in the University of Botswana and in Botswana countrywide. So it's a way to improve my debating skills, but to connect with my fellow lawyers and to actually learn more in the legal field globally.
Thank you. And your colleagues as well?
For me, this is a lovely experience because when it comes to critical thinking skills and, analyzing a debate, well, this is the kind of exposure that I needed. And also to connect with people like-minded as us, as lawyers, to actually meet in one space and discuss issues that we really think that someday in the future, they're going to benefit all of us as a whole. So truly thankful for this experience.
Similarly, I'm also very thankful for this experience. It has been exciting and thought-provoking. And in terms of selection, we were not selected, we volunteered, right, guys?
Yeah.
Because we are law students as well as debaters. So when when the people who reached out said that they needed law students for debate, we thought since we are in both categories, we might as well just raise our hands, and then we did it.
Thank you. Thank you. And now, second question. I will start with you as well in Botswana. Imagine that the team from Trinidad and Tobago will be visiting you in Gabon. So what they should visit, what they should eat, part of your culture in Botswana.
Pardon, can you repeat your question, sir?
Well,
Yes, question for the team of Botswana first. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Fortunately for the team in Trinidad and Tobago, Botswana and the Caribbean islands, right? We almost have the same palate, so I think you'd really enjoy our food, especially the traditional cuisine. I think you'd really enjoy it. We have a lot. We have vegetables that are in Setswana, we also have a lot of traditional cuisines because we have a lot of tribes, so almost each tribe has its own staple food. And I'm very sure they're as tasty as your food, so you'd enjoy the food.
Thank you. And same question to the team in Trinidad and Tobago. First time the team from Botswana will come. What they should see and eat.
And roti.
For our country, I think you guys will really enjoy roti and doubles.
And pilau.
Yeah, those are some of our popular dishes. I think you all will really enjoy that. And today is Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago, so you all will enjoy that as well.
Thank you very much. So now, because of this match is maybe the first time actually you have a discussion, legal topics, but still discussion, we encourage all of you in Botswana, in Trinidad and Tobago to keep contact on the long term, because for your career it will be good to have, of course, connections around the world, and this is the reason of this competition as well. So do not hesitate to look on LinkedIn and as well to ask us, and there will be a networking session at the end of the group phase. Don't forget this aspect as well. So many thanks. So we look forward to get the result that you will get soon as well by email around the end of the week. And we thank the judge as well for their time for assessing this match. So we keep in touch, and of course, in 2 weeks you'll have the second match. It means a week before you receive the topic. Okay? For the second match. Yeah? So many thanks. We see you soon. Many thanks again. Congratulations for your first match. And we keep in touch, and don't hesitate to watch the other match as well of the other teams. Bye-bye.